Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, we are on episode 283, and Ben is back in the saddle, and we thought we'd talk a little bit about power management. And this is something that I know both Ben and I have dealt with in the past, and I think most people out there nowadays are going to be dealing with this a little bit because technology is a real part of our lives. It's not like we still say you're going to go away and unplug. Absolutely. But the reality is, at some point, you're probably going to bring some of your electronics. You know what I mean? If you're going with, like, there's two different types of camping. Kind of.
Yeah.
Different rabbit hole. There is the totally disconnect, which is awesome in its own. And then there's the modern camping, and this is probably going to be more you're bringing the family, you're bringing some people, maybe you just want some of your niceties, you're going to be around somewhere that has cell service and stuff like that, and that's kind of where this dives in, or at least that's where it is for me. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's it. But I think one of the things I had thought about when I sort of suggested this particular idea was that more and more stuff that wasn't necessarily powered before has leaked into our environment. So I'll give a couple of ideas. Our flashlights have gone up in technology immensely. Things like the O-light. You can buy little portable pumps for pumping up your air mattress, things like that. Your spot devices, our watches. Most of us are now running probably some version of a smart watch. And as cool as those are, they have a limited life, right? Like, mine's good for a month without charging, and possibly longer if I'm in the sun a lot.
You'd be
But
disgusted with how long mine lasts.
7 days.
No, buddy. Buddy, I mean, you're going to
What?
be disgusted. You were going to laugh, and you were going to be appalled by how long mine lasts.
24 hours.
24 hours.
Wow. uh, Man, we have to talk. I got some suggestions for you.
Listen,
Anyways,
there is an upgrade on the way. After this one dies, I have something in mind. Different story, though.
yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, we have our watches, we have our phones, we have our GPS devices, we have the niceties, the lanterns. I mean, we used to carry fuel, and we'd have a lantern, and you'd burn it off the fuel. Um,
Prime example, that's the battery packet of this flashlight. This has to be
okay,
charged.
yeah. Um, what was there something else? Oh, our camera equipment. Me and you, we like to record some of our events, so we have our drones, we have our cameras, we have, the phone access that. So all these things need power. And the problem is, most of the devices, when you leave home, are probably good for 24 to 48 hours. But after you go past that, now you have to start thinking, do I have enough battery life to survive the trip? And so you have options.
There we go.
And option one is buy more batteries. I mean, I'm not even a joke, but, with my drone, I have this battery charger. I have 3 batteries in that plus the one in my drone. So I have 4 batteries, which means I don't have to worry about charging it unless I'm planning on doing about more than 2 hours of flying. Honestly, me and you both know 2 hours of flying on a drone is a significant amount. And
It's a
probably
lot of
not
flight time.
probably not going to exceed it on the average 3 to 5 day trip.
No. No, I did an
Right?
event, and literally it was like an entire weekend event, and I took the drone down, and I was expecting to charge the batteries like 3 and 4 times over the weekend.
Yeah.
Nope, never charged them once. 3 batteries,
Yeah.
did the entire weekend for me.
Yeah. So, same here with your flashlights. Buy a couple extra batteries, take them with you, and that may be the easier solution because taking something that can recharge those devices may exceed the weight and effort it takes to recharge it. So that's definitely a consideration. The other thing is, like, some of these devices, some of our flashlights, this drone battery kit, I can use that to recharge something else. Some of them have power out. Some phones can gift some of their power to other devices.
This flashlight, believe it or not, has
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know if you can see it
USB-A.
there with all the glare and stuff, but it does have power out.
Yes. So part of the proper power management, in my opinion, is devices that can share power with other devices. So, you go in and you take a device that has some power, has some use, but maybe you don't need all the power it has if you can use it to top up another device, whether it's the plan to make that device last or an emergency. Emergency being like your phone dies, but now you have an issue and you need to call for help. If you have a way of putting even 4 or 5% back in that battery, it means the difference between being able to send a message and not.
And that's probably where most of us start. And
Yeah,
just a good segue in, this is probably what most people are going to start shouting right through the screen. Power
yeah,
banks. The problem is, power banks, they're finicky. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I have no problems with power banks. They are finicky. This one here is rated to supposed to be like, I'm going to guess, it's like a 3,000 milliamp power bank. You're probably not going to get what, oh, actually, it's written on for it 4,000. I know this doesn't put out 4,000 milliamps. You know what I mean?
yeah. So you might charge one phone once with that.
I don't even think this gives me one full charge for my phone. I think this fills
Yeah,
me about 50%. Because the 4,000 milliamps, you're not getting all 4,000 milliamps, or at least in my experience, you don't. You know what I mean? Like my
yeah,
phone has a significantly big battery. It's got a 3,000 milliamp battery in it. It's one of the old LG's, massive battery, massive phone.
yeah,
This 4,000 milliamp battery from dead charges it to about half. So I know you're not
yeah.
getting 4,000 milliamps out of this thing.
No, no, I have a bigger one. Mine's bigger than yours.
Hey, look, I got bigger ones yet again, man.
This one I think is 25,000.
Okay, you got me beat. I think my biggest one's 22.
And this one has one side is a solar panel, and it has magnetically attached three other panels.
And
So,
see, that's a good place to start with power management. Having a
yeah,
battery bank is good providing it's charged and it stays charged. These are temperamental with temperature changes, as I'm sure you're aware yourself. If you're in colder
yeah.
weather and this is in your pack and it's somewhere where it can be exposed to cooler temperatures, this starts depleting all on its own.
And honestly, a power bank that's not capable of recharging itself is no better than spare batteries. So years ago, my first cell phones, I had 4 or 5 spare batteries. And if I went anywhere, I oftentimes had a pocket full of spare batteries because if you spend any amount of time on your phone, you're going through them in a day. So your old Motorola 650 and your old Nikon, Nikitas or whatever used to have little square batteries and you could pull them out. I think my first LG G5, that was one of the selling points to it. You could buy spare batteries to it. They popped out, and it was an easy replace. Now, most new phones, they're a sealed unit. You can't switch out a battery on the go. There is push to fix that. There is now people saying that this should not be as hard to do. That changing a battery should be something that you can do on the fly. Modular phones are in the conversation in the future, but in the meantime, that's not a full solution. So yeah, so definitely, power banks. And I don't want to get on it today, but maybe we'll talk about it more in the future. There's power stations, and it's just a power bank that's much, much bigger. you know, and some of these will allow you to go 5, 6 days and charge all your items and more capability. But it's just a giant power bank. They have 120 power instead of just 12 volt or USB, but reality is that's out there. Um,
But the size is generally what the drawback is on some of those. Now,
you're,
if you're car
you're not
camping or
back.
close camping, it's not so bad. But if you go to hike like
No.
14 kilometers in the woods, it starts getting a little, you're weighing your options pretty hard there.
Yeah, yeah. Despite what the advertisements will show you, nobody is carrying a 35-pound power station up a mountain so they can charge their phone and have the
I
lantern and turn on
guarantee
their
you that was helicopter dropped in.
right. So that's not truly an option. But here's the thing: when you're going, you have to sit down and think about what am I taking that requires power? Does is it worth taking, and how long can I get out of it? So if you're thinking a flashlight, how many hours of light do I expect to get from my flashlight? And if you go to Walmart or dollar store and buy a cheap one, know that that's a less known number. You'll have to test that and see. Uh, but if you figure, okay, one set of AA batteries in this particular device gives me 12 hours worth of light. Think about it. Am I going to be out 3 nights? Do I need 4 hours worth of light? And if you don't, then that light system is adequate for a 3-day trip. You
Absolutely.
know, same thing with your phone. Do I need, like, how long does my phone last on an average day? But now, if I'm hiking and stuff, can I turn it on airplane mode? Could I shut it off for periods of time and only turn it on in the evenings when I plan on using it? Am I using it as a GPS? If I am, then maybe my usage is going to be even worse. Or do I get a dedicated device? Um, Garmin, I believe, came out with a solar powered one. I'm very interested in it. It now has a solar powered GPS that theoretically would never need charging in the wall on a trip. You could leave it hooked to your pack, and just the day-to-day walking in the sunlight should be enough to keep it charged, which means you have an infinitely long battery life on this particular device.
But here's the thing. While we're talking about solar panels, and before we broadside over it, I did have one of these here, and I know you got one too, Ben.
Oh,
These
nice.
solar panels are great. Like, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
nice big solar panels. They work good, providing there's nice bright light. Now, here's the
Yes.
thing. This one here will charge my phone on its own. No battery bank attached, nothing like that, providing it's nice and bright and sunny light. The other side of that is it don't take much cloud cover before this is nothing more than just a fan. You know what I
Yes.
mean? There's where the problem with solar panels comes in. A lot of people rely on them pretty heavily, and they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying understand the limitations that come with it. You really got to check the forecast, and it is surprising how much direct high sunlight you need with this. This here, even in a bright day in the winter, doesn't charge that well. Taking the cold
Mm.
out of the equation, I throw it on my dash. The sun's just not that strong during the winter. During the middle of the summer, nice bright sunny day, this thing charges like mad. You know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
is a big factor, and it's one of the things that I was maybe undereducated on or maybe overestimated when I bought this thing was that I assumed that, it's a bigger solar panel. Maybe I wouldn't need as much direct sunlight, but the reality is you still need pretty strong direct sunlight for these things to work. The best way I found to find out if this is going to work, can you light a fire with a magnifying glass? If you can't light a fire with a magnifying glass, it's not bright enough to support that. This,
Yeah.
keep it in your pack. It's not really going
And
to do a lot for you.
angle makes a big difference. So it's not like you can set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You have to adjust these a lot. So we were camping. We went for a full week. We went camping with some friends and some solo. And it was car camping, so we were going around, but we weren't driving every day. Um, and so I have a family of five. I think that's fairly well known. So five phone devices, uh, a bunch of other things. And the thing that was really killing us, the thing that really we struggled with was the phones. By the end of the day, a lot of the phones were dragged down. They needed to be topped up. And these were the answer to that. And these sat on the picnic table or the dash of the car or the hood of the car, charging all the time. So at night we could top them up. So this worked well um, for that particular reason. And I'm not saying go find this exact one, but I'm going to tell you that there's some pretty good ones out there. And I find that I can guarantee get 2 to 3 charges out of phone of one of these. Um, but there's some things I want to talk about. Leaving your phone plugged into these, it
Yeah.
never seems to realize that the phone is fully charged and it keeps discharging. So if you're going to sleep and you leave it plugged in, when you wake up in the morning, there's a good chance this thing is dead, even though it only charged one phone. Because the phone pretty well goes out of its power save modes and stuff. So I highly recommend, if you're traveling and doing that, turn the phone off when you're charging it, because it doesn't pull as much power. It charges faster and easier in an off position. The other problem, and you've probably experienced this,
These are
or
intelligent or supposedly intelligent charging packs that are supposed to kick off once the draw reaches a certain period. But much like
Yeah.
you said, if the phone's on, it's drawing. If it's in an area where it does not have reception, it's drawing a little more where it's trying to find reception. And yeah, killed this one stone dead. Still, it was supposed to be a smart one. Oh yeah, it doesn't do this overnight. Still a problem if your phone's not off. So absolutely, Ben, I 100% agree with you.
Other problem I had with the solar panel solution, because I have the same one as you did, and I was using those to top up these as well as charge phones, is leaving my son out in the sunlight on the dash of the car or on the picnic table. My phones were all overheating.
Yep.
And that was causing all kinds of issues because when they overheat, they stop working, they stop pulling charges, they literally shut themselves off, and you could pick them up. They were hot to touch, and just sitting in the sunlight was really hard on them. And so I had to find that you had to shade them and protect them from the sun. So be aware of that. Even pulling them out of the case helped some, but because that prevents some dissipation of heat. But be aware, in hot days, leaving your son in the sunlight or your phone in the sunlight is detrimental to a lot of
Oh, it's
things.
bad on all electronics. Like, I'm sure it must break down on this to some degree, but I mean, this is meant to be in direct sunlight, so it's not as bad. But the battery banks, the phone, the batteries for the drone, all those electronics don't do well with high heat situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A couple things from the comments, just so we got Steve and Danny joining us there. Steve, I have a small power bank I can take overnights. I can charge my phone 3 or so times with it. Filming with my phone as well. It's a small 10,000 milliamp. So 10,000 milliamp. I think this is a 10,000 milliamp one. So something
Yeah.
roughly about this size. And I mean, this is what I do. If I'm going in the woods by myself and I just need a top up for the phone, that's the one I grab right there. It's about 10,000 milliamps. It's good quality, and it works. Like, it actually gives a good charge. This was a little bit more money than some of the other ones I bought, but this
Yep.
was one of the times where you get what you pay for. You know what I mean? I haven't
Yeah.
actually had a chance to get this out to do a whole lot of testing with it yet, but it's supposed to be a 20,000 milliamp, and my 10,000 milliamp weighs significantly more. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, the interesting thing is battery technology is really interesting. And if you do some research, I can never remember the name of them, but the sort of the lithium style batteries that are popular in a lot of the newer phones and charging packs. If you look them up, the 18 something, 1856s or something.
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you, Ben, but I
Anyways,
know what you're talking about.
yeah. If you look up, if you buy from a reputable brand, they hold a ton of power. But if you buy, and I bought some at the dollar store, I found these little tiny power banks. They were the size of a battery, and I cracked it open because it never did charge anything. It looks like those type of batteries, but the amount of power in that battery is significantly less. And what turns out is they're not what they claim to be. Although you can look at the number, you can sort of look it up, and they claim to be the same as the bigger ones. They're an off-brand, or they're
18650. Danny's got our back.
18650. So it's a very popular battery. It's really chargeable. There's something to be said for it. Just know that the battery systems that are out there, you do oftentimes get what you pay for. And if you buy the cheapest one on Amazon or AliExpress or anything, you're probably going to find that it's not the power they claim it is, and it might not work quite as well. I'm not saying it won't work, and not saying it's not great. This, I think, falls in that category. It says 25,000. I'm not sure there's 25,000 in this, but it is fairly good. It does work fairly well. It has a little built-in flashlight. It has wireless charging. It has a lot of stuff. But really, you don't need to pay for a lot of the extra options. Get something with a solid battery. And if I'm not a big believer in the integrated solar panel either, honestly.
You know what? Back when I
It
first got
works.
this one, for what it's worth, a buddy of mine bought one of those power banks with the solar panel built into it.
Yeah.
I was getting a better charge rate out of this one. Now, granted, it is much larger. Keeping in mind, it is much larger. You know what I mean? Like, physically sized. So it might have just been the more solar area and stuff like that. But with my solar panel, I was able to charge one of my power banks and my phone with his. It was struggling just to keep up on charging the power bank alone. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now that I mention that, when I bought these, what came with them, and I don't have it anymore, is there was a little power meter that came with them, and I haven't seen it in a while. I have to look for it. But you can plug it in, and it was with my solar panel for the longest time. And the neat thing is you could put it in, it would tell you what your charge was and how much amperage you were getting out of it. So those things are really good, and it's worth owning those. And if you're trying to figure out what something's consuming and how well it's charging, that's a beauty for your solar panels. Because you can put it in, and it's going to give you an idea of what you're getting. What is your efficiency, and what is your success? I wish I knew where mine were. There's two of them. We got them last year. So because we're trying
I just
to
had a
stick
slight tangent of my own here. Just where we were talking about those batteries. It's kind of not related to this topic. I got something else coming out on it, but here's a sneak peek. So somebody sent me a message about these set of flashlights, and they take that style of battery that you're talking about, right? These rechargeable flashlights, and they were sent to me as the O-Light killer. You can see where this is going, Ben. So, they were designed something after this O-Light here. You know what I mean? I can't remember the model number. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't have the box. It's up there somewhere. But anyway, they were designed kind of after these. The only thing I'll say about these is you get two of them for pretty inexpensive. And this is one of the unopened ones, so you can see I'm opening it out of the package. There's no tomfoolery and tricks of the hand going here. But, yeah, that battery that you were talking about, and that's the whole reason I got Mel to run this into me, is one of these, if I'm not mistaken. Boom. Those suckers. The 18650s. Bam. I don't know which camera I'm supposed to be holding that to, but there you go. That's the kind of battery we're talking about. And as you can see, this lithium-ion battery is definitely some sort of knockoff brand. My hopes...
and dreams.
Yeah. Let's just say it does not perform the same as the ones that are said in said O-Light. You know what I mean? These are decent flashlights. There'll be a little video coming up on these at some point. Nothing wrong for the cost they pay with them. But to the person that sent me the request asking if I could check these out and see if they were equal to O-Light because they were thought they would be a good O-Light killer. Long story short, no. No, they are not. They're a good little flashlight, but they're nowhere comparable to an O-Light.
No. No, I mean...
But yeah,
some of these...
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Some of these companies that are coming out, they're going to try their best. And maybe if you put an O-Light battery in it, you'd have the best idea of how comparable it is. But if they're trying to save money and they save it by putting a cheaper battery in it, then the disappointment's going to be pretty evident early on. So that's worth knowing, right?
And that's the thing. A product is only as good as its weakest part. And a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you're cheaping on the battery, like the O-Light that I have here just for, comparison, I think I didn't pay, but the going price for it was about $100. That flashlight I just showed you, I got a 2-pack for $22.
and honestly, if you look up those, let me do it right here, and then we should need to do our closing statement.
Yeah. Anyway, while Ben's looking that up, coming back on to some more of the power management stuff here. The thing with power management that everybody has to keep in mind is you need to know what you're going to be using it for. Just don't grab a battery bank and be like, oh, I'm good for anything. All battery banks are not built equal, and they're not created equal. You got to do a little research, figure out what you're going to be using it for, and maybe the option for you out there is going to be a battery bank in the back pocket, like Ben said earlier. If you're just hoping to top up your cell phone, like Steve was talking about here, they work very well, especially if you're only going out for, shorter stints. And when I say shorter, I'm saying like 3 days less. If you're going out on longer tours, you may want to look into some sort of solar panel to top up said battery bank. Once again, do your research. Not all solar panels are created equal, and you definitely don't want like the size you're going to get from a big box mart trying to carry around on your back. You got to do a little looking into it. Make sure it's going to be good enough to charge your phone and your battery bank at the same time. Because I can guarantee you, by the time you go to pull out the solar panel, both are already dead. The other thing with solar panels and stuff is take advantage of any sunny weather when you can. If you look up and it's nice and sunny, well, you don't have to look up. If you notice it's nice and sunny, crank out the solar panels, start topping stuff up then. Don't wait until they're dead, because then it's too late. Chances are the sun will never shine again. It'll be cloudy weather for the rest of the trip and you'll be out up the creek without a paddle. It's there's a lot more foresight to proper power management, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is really understand the devices you're taking and understand what their capabilities is. If you're taking a pump, for example, and you're planning on using it to pump up your air mattress every night, know approximately how many times you can fill that bed up before it goes dead. Because after that, you're just carrying around dead weight in space. And think about it. Is it worth it? And it very well may be, because I like taking mine. I enjoy it. It also acts as a light. It does a few things. You can use it to buff up the fire and all that. Great. But it does take up space and weight, and I do have to consider it. And if I'm carrying it for no reason, that's something I need to get rid of. So the debate is, look at everything that's going to take power, and do you have enough power to get through your trip? And if not, can you put that power back in it? There are options. The solar panels. There's a company out of Newfoundland that was selling a little wind turbine water wheel thing you could toss out in the river and get your charge out of it.
Oh man, would I ever want one of those? They're so cool.
Yeah, these are great things. I've looked at different options. Definitely it exists out there. There's hand crank devices and all that. But the reality
on hand crank devices, Steve said something over here, and I've been waiting to kind of come back to it. Good as time as any, because I notice our time's running out. I have a crank solar panel, cheap radio flashlight. It is power out, but I've never tried to charge anything with it. I doubt it would work well, but it'd be cool to see that technology developed. On the crank things, I've tested this one. We had a little crank radio here with a power out, much like what Steve had there. Probably one of the same knockoffs. We're, having a little get together here. There was several of us having some adult beverages and enjoying ourselves. And I brought this thing out and I said, look, there's enough of us here. We're going to test this thing. Who's got the deadest phone? So we found out who had the deadest phone and we hooked it up to this thing and we started cranking. So it was roughly about 55%.
Yeah.
About 4 hours later, and roughly 6 people cranking this thing continuously. Once one person would get tired, would hand it off to somebody else. And I'm serious, in 4 hours, it didn't stop for probably longer than a total of 10 minutes. We gained 10%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it going to get you an emergency call? Absolutely. Are you going to be annoyed to no end with this in the woods? Absolutely.
Is it worth taking? And my answer is generally probably not. And that's unfortunate, but the reality is there was a company out there too that had a technology. You put it in the bottom of your shoe, and every time you stepped on it, it created a little pulse of power. And they're like, if you're walking and you got your battery pack in your pocket and it's run up your leg, that you could put some charge in it, and it's no energy that you weren't already spending. So you're doing a long hike, maybe it can charge your phone every day. Devices are out there.
Absolutely.
Regardless, just make sure that whatever you're taking is practical, is useful, and that it's going to last the trip, or you have the ability to make it last the trip. Like I said, we found these were lifesaver for our particular trip. They were running pretty well constantly, but by the end of the trip, with very minimal use of the vehicle, we were able to keep all the phones fully charged for the trip. And honestly, what I find in a car is once I plug more than one into a charger, that it's not putting out enough power, and it takes forever to charge a single phone. Maybe there are probably better plug-in ones than you can get. But just to quickly throw it out there for those batteries, you're probably looking at an average of $5 to $8 on the low end. Some of the, like Amazon has Yeah, that's the AAA batteries. Yeah, about $5 a piece, and you really have to be picky. And the range is anywhere from about 2,000 milliamperes hours to 9,000 or 10,000 per
Mm.
battery. And I don't believe either of those. If they're saying the 2,000 are crap, if they're saying 10,000, it's probably not really in there. Try to find somebody that you can trust. A lot of these are generic, just blue or purple. And the ones that come in some of these companies are the blue ones. But I'm told that there's good blue ones and bad blue
I
ones.
was just about to
So,
say, there's another comment over here by Danny this time. He said, DeWalt batteries, take them apart, they're full of those 18650s. Here's the thing. Everybody makes copies. I have two
yeah,
DeWalt batteries bought from DeWalt. One of them's a
yeah,
knockoff inside. They are
yeah.
cheap little cell batteries in it. And when I reached out to them, they're like, oh, we just got them from our supplier or whatever. They'll exchange it out. And they did for me in that instance. But everybody has knockoffs. Even a DeWalt battery that looks 100% like a DeWalt battery potentially could have a knockoff cell inside it. So just be careful on that one too. Anyway, that's my rant on that one. And that was
And
not
and
too long ago.
and even then, like, what's the DeWalt battery cost?
Oh, geez. I
120 bucks?
paid
102?
100 and they were on sale, 199 for two of them.
Yeah. So $100, and there's what, six in it?
Two, two, four, six. I think eight, 6 or 8. Yeah.
Eight. Okay. So you're still over $10 a battery.
But what he was saying was when the battery goes bad, like the DeWalt battery, generally when they don't
Yeah.
hold a charge anymore, it's usually only one or two of those individual cells inside that went dead, and you can salvage the rest of them. Providing you got a little
Yeah.
technical know-how, I agree with him, and providing that they're actually the good cells inside. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. The way I found out this thing was a knockoff is because my good one got significantly longer runtime than one I had just bought and run a through power cycles through.
Um, if you do some research on some of these battery technologies, lithium ion, for example, I think has about 800 charge cycles before you're down to 80%. The lithium iron oxide ones, those
Mm.
are anywhere between 3 and 5,000 charges for the same thing. So they cost a bit more, they weigh a tiny bit more, they may be a little bit bulkier, but they're also more rare, although they're showing up in more and more devices. So understand the technology you're getting, and yes, they're not infinitely going to last, but 1,000 cycles is still 3 years if you're using it pretty well once a day. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing.
If you
Once again, look at these realistically. How often are you going to charge them? Lithium polymer was another one that's thrown around sometimes. It's even less. It's only about 3 to 500 cycles.
yeah, and I think that's what's in a lot of our rechargeable drills and stuff. I'm not knocking the technology. It makes sense. Like, do you recharge your drill every day? If if you're a construction worker, absolutely. If you're, at a home person, you're probably only using the drill 15, 20 times a year on average, right? So it makes sense not to buy the greatest one because you're probably going to use it and then destroy it and replace it in the time that the battery's going to last. So just be aware of that. Um, but yeah, you know, take some time, work it out, figure out is it worth carrying solar panels and all that. And honestly, if you don't expect to need it, probably an extra battery is really your solution, or a good power supply. Um, do look for devices that are more power efficient and better. And this is where, like I mentioned, the Garmin solar powered device. My watch is that it's a solar powered watch, and it's very efficient. Some of these things are worth the extra dollars because you don't have to worry about charging them. I know I can leave here and 2 weeks later come back and I still have over 50% charge on my watch. It means I don't have to worry about that. But if I had a different watch that's only good for 5 or 7 days, and I'm not picking on them, but my wife has a Fitbit and she loves it, it's good for about 7 days between charges.
And if I throw mine down to literally just timekeeping, I can get about 7 days.
Mm.
But the
I
reality
can
is, I
turn
own my watch because I use it as my wallet.
I can leave mine on most things running and still get about 20 days. So I can
Yeah.
turn it full.
And there is a
So,
massive difference there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Better
yeah,
technology in Garmin, too, to be honest with you. This is just a Google Pixel watch. It's not bad,
yeah,
but I mean, they're not looking to make these things last for ages. You know what I mean? They want it to
no,
break, so you buy a new one. Garmin, on the other hand, they want to make a product that's basically military spec and people stand behind it. They have a reputation. You know what I mean?
yeah. So, and we're not necessarily Garmin guys, but
No,
honestly,
just
like
comparing.
I bought in, for me, I bought into the InReach because I wanted something that could get out there, and it's good for 4 or 5 days. My watch could link to it, which is important, and I love the battery life on it. Know what you're getting into, and make sure what you buy is going to do what you want it to do. And sometimes it is worth paying a little bit more, but really just look out for what exists, and is there something that meets your needs in your budget? Chances are you will find it, and make sure that the trade-offs are worth it. Anyways, we've exceeded our time.
Yeah, but it's our show. Whatever.
I hope some people found this useful. Uh, it's not groundbreaking, but
It
look
is food
into
for
the
thought.
devices.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
is food for thought.
yeah, um, yeah. So I'll let you go with that. But yeah, get out there, have fun, make sure that the tools you're taking are going to last for what you expect, and if not, think about whether you can use it with something else to replace that.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Get out there, have fun, play safe. Let us know about it as always. You can get in touch with us with all that stuff down there.